The season finale of The Owl House comes out, well, tomorrow, so this is quite possibly my last chance to share any theories on why Lilith cursed Ida all those years ago. There is always the chance that they don't reveal her motives until season 2, but after last week's episode where she says she wants to explain why she did it, I imagine she'll be given that chance before the episode ends. We have something a bit more nuanced than Lilith just being jealous as a theory today, but before we jump into that, I want to remind you all that we have our Owl House parody shirts for sale over at the Teespring shop. Links are in the pinned comment down below. Check it out and get yourself a Full Metal Alchemist shirt or a Witches Before Wizards tee. Now, on to the video. Lilith and Ida have a complicated relationship to say the least, and at first glance, the motive seems really obvious, that Lilith was mad, upset, jealous, or a combination of the three, and that is what drove her to curse Ida, essentially just a generic attempt at revenge for a perceived history of wrongdoings against her. On the surface, this does seem to be the case, and not really interesting enough to theorize about since their headbutting history is a well-documented fact, but Discord user The Beeve had other ideas. Despite how at each other's throats they seem to be for the history of their relationship, we have seen that it is a bit more nuanced than just that. Despite being the one to have cursed her, Lilith's ultimate goal is to help Ida remove the curse entirely, instead of keeping it at bay using potions and magic. While part of that may be because she regrets her own actions, it may also be because this was a very specific intention behind cursing her, one that Ida wasn't meant to live with for the rest of her life. We know that as kids, both Ida and Lilith dreamed of joining the Emperor's Coven one day, but something had to have changed. While we can't know Ida's motives for sure, we know that she was already interested in learning all types of magic at that young age, and was already the rebellious sort who didn't mind messing up any system that she felt was set up in the wrong way, such as the Coven system, or the fact that she could only explore one track of magic while at Hexside, which really doesn't make a lot of sense if you're trying to get into the Emperor's Coven itself. However, there is a hint of a deeper motive for Ida turning away from the Emperor in the recent episode. During her epic clash with Lilith, Ida mentions that they cannot trust the Emperor, that he doesn't really want to help her, but rather he wants to control her wild magic. This may be a bit of a shot in the dark, as she could have been speaking rather figuratively about having uncontrolled magic by a Coven system, but I think that somewhere along the way, Ida learned about a type of magic that even the Emperor's Coven does not have access to. Some wild magic that the Savages were using that Willow explained as using the magic the wrong way in that episode. Ida may have thought the Emperor was a great leader at the time, but a large part of the appeal for joining that Coven would have been keeping access to all of her powers, but there does seem to be some vague yet to be defined power that joining this Coven would take away from her. Perhaps something that gave her the power to create Hootie using this demonic symbol on the ceiling of her house, or just this very strong power that allows her to have this advantage over trained Coven leaders like Lilith. Lilith, on the other hand, having joined the Emperor's Coven, or having planned to do so soon, became aware of the mysterious fate that Covenless witches were facing. We now know that the Emperor doesn't just make them all join covens, as he threatens to remove Lilith from his own coven and hints at something near fatal happening to witches who meet this fate. In the end, cursing Ida before the Emperor decides to do that to her would have been an attempt to save her. By giving Ida an ailment that only the Emperor could heal, it would push Ida to join the Emperor's Coven of her own accord, so that he could then heal her, and she would never meet the grim fate of the Covenless witches. Of course, that didn't go exactly as planned. Ida has a bit too much pride, the curse was a bit too easy to keep at bay, and her sheer amounts of power likely gave her the belief that she would be able to overcome the curse at some point on her own. When we reach where we are in the story, Ida seems to have given up on the idea, but has decided that after a life of living in the wild, that she would rather succumb to the curse than live under the Emperor's thumb. And this is why Lilith has changed her plan. She works for the Emperor, she doesn't understand Ida's hatred for him, so she assumes Ida just doesn't know what is best for herself, that Ida will realize she had wasted so much of her life avoiding the inevitable, and might even be happier when she joins the Coven. Coven, but this is just a theory for now. The show is really good at expanding on the lore of its world and the motives of its people, so I wouldn't be surprised if the true intentions in cursing Ida are something that we could never have theorized. But what do you guys think? Are we onto something here, or is it just a case of a jealous sister cursing in revenge? Let me know in a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe because we'll have a full review of the new Owl House episode on Saturday morning. See you then.